everyone, thanks for joining. Of course, here with Jeff. A lot to cover, a lot of stuff happening. We've got inflation, we've got Elon Musk, getting involved in Twitter. We've got crazy worldwide events. So we'll dive into it. But Jeff, first things first, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks, Jason. Thanks for asking. Just back from a trip to Johannesburg. I was there for the last 4 days. So we
How'd it
had,
go?
it was amazing. We had one of our, so we had the head of our health and fitness, Robert Simboe, who's also an MMA fighter. So he was competing in the EFC 93. EFC is the UFC sanctioned African League. And it was amazing. I got to tell you, my expectations for the event were not extremely high, and given that here I am in Africa, I don't know these events here, how they're run. And I got to tell you, it was a 2-day event in terms of day one was the weigh-in. Day two was, the undercard, main card. Rob was main card, and it was televised. And I had some friends back in the US watching the fights. It was really cool. And I got to tell you, my expectation level was not only met, it was surpassed in a gigantically. The guy behind the EFC, I met with him. We had a good chat about, where he's heading, what he wants to do, and just great vision, a great person, great business mind. And they have that whole franchise is like next level, as they would say here. It's unreal. And I was really proud to say that, I was part of it. So I was officially on the Rob Simboe team, and that entitles you to go behind the curtains, really, and everything from wrapping and being with the doctor and, the urine samples, like everything. And it was fascinating to see because it's a UFC sanction, everything has to follow a UFC fight in Vegas, for instance, everything. And it was truly amazing. The security, everything from security to lighting to video to everything. It was, I got to tell you, I would give it a 10 out of 10. So really, really happy, proud that our fighter and we as a team, a company are affiliated with EFC. And I look forward to, I'll be meeting with him this week, actually, the CEO. And I look forward to expanding our relationship with the league itself. And I look forward to some cool things happening from that. So really, really cool. I had a great weekend, except for the rain. It was raining like hell up there, but all good. Nice to be back in Cape Town. Weather here is nice, as usual.
Perfect. And I know we haven't chatted since you went to London for the conference as well. So I guess this is a perfect time maybe to ask how that went.
Oh, wow. I thought, I guess not, huh? My, how time flies. So the conference in London was amazing. It was great to see the event back live. So, it's been 3 years really since the event was live. It was great to see some old faces, some new faces. Amazing to walk around. Amazing to see some of the new direction that was maybe talked about 2-3 years ago, like the alternative meat sector, things like that really picking up, where maybe 3 years ago there was one company, to talk about and look at and to hear from. Now there are, 10 of them at the event. Great to see the longevity sector continue to pick up. And I mean, the speeches were brilliant. These are some of the most renowned scientists in longevity talking about what they were working on. I met some great guys. I met some great people from Toronto. I met a great company working on issues related to cardiology. They're based out of, I think, Buffalo, but they're back and forth, obviously, from Toronto all the time. The company is called Repair Technologies, a little plug for them. I love what they're doing, and I really do. I think, and the scientist behind is from Toronto, the scientist behind the whole, what they're working on, and he is a brilliant guy. Ex-Harvard, ran a lab at Harvard for 10 years in that space related to cardiology. Amazing. And then the investors and everyone. It was a really cool event. Attendance was down, but I think that's normal, of course. With COVID, people are still a little bit afraid, even though in the UK now you don't need the masks. But most were still wearing masks. I know I did a little bit here and there too. But it was an incredible event as always. And for me, it's the networking, being able to connect the dots, which are just so very, very important. I enjoyed hanging out with Dr. Bailey. Again, always, learning from him. He's just an incredible human being. And I didn't get much time with Jim. He was running around as always, but it was he's that guy is just full of energy, and it's fun to say hello and hang out a bit. But and it was an amazing experience as always. Dr. Anna was there, and I loved it. It was good to see the UK mending from COVID. And again, the hustle and bustle of London is something that it's hard to explain, much like the hustle and bustle of the old days in New York on Wall Street, where there was truly, a trading floor and things like that. The hustle and bustle back then was incredible. Well, that in the UK is there. It's alive. You see it. You feel it. You go into those Starbucks at 5:30 when they open up, and they're active. People are talking about deals. They're drinking their fifth coffee already. They're doing stuff. They're making stuff happen. And the trip again for me was a 10 out of 10. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I know
Yeah.
we're talking M2 Bio Wuhan stuff. Do we want to talk about any company updates? Maybe do a little, quick, hey, how are things? Where are things? I know you guys have had some good product announcements recently. I think I saw with the CBD muscle and joints rubs. Do you want to talk about that or any other things going on in the company before we hop into market stuff?
So there are, yeah, I mean, so it's interesting. What we're doing now is we're using press releases from the company as a tool to update everybody as to where we're going and where we're at and where we're going. So one of the latest ones was the muscle rubs. Those are I think we have three or four, I think three, there's actually a fourth one coming out. That's for Rob Simboway, the fighter. He's the brand ambassador. He'll be out there promoting. And others will be promoting those particular CBD rubs. They're amazing. Again, a phenomenal job by our creative team, and especially Johan, who runs the creative team. The packaging is just beautiful. It's to die for. So very excited about that. And we continue, to build out those SKUs. I don't know if the last time we spoke, I'm not sure if we had actually made this announcement, but we're now in our 100, well, past that now, but we made an announcement. We're in our 100th independent retail location, which is quite a milestone for a little company like us that, never sought the big budget like most do. Let's go spend gazillions to get on store shelves. For us, it's never been that. It never will be that. It's about building the brand slowly but surely, getting feedback and understanding our product and how the customers like it. Because when it comes time to taking the brand to other countries, then we're extremely well positioned with tons of feedback from everybody involved. And the number may not sound great, but 100 independent retail stores across just this area here in Cape Town is a big number. I mean, most people would love to have that and stop. And our sales team is doing, we're opening up at the moment, I'd say around 12 new stores per week. But that's going to, we're hiring a team in Johannesburg now. We're hiring another person here in Cape Town. By the end of the year, we did project to be in 600 stores, but, and that's what we put in the press release. We stick by that. But quite frankly, I think we'll far surpass that. And keep in mind, that doesn't include chain stores. So if we're in one big pharmacy chain and we're in 100 stores, I don't count that as 100 locations. I count that as one store. Wow. So yeah, so pretty soon you will be seeing a couple of these bigger pharmaceutical chains, people like that carrying the product, and everything from that standpoint is going great. I'm really, really happy with the KPIs that they're hitting and the deliverables where they're going to head by the end of the year. So so super happy. And I know we have more press releases to do on the sustainability division. That are working on some really, really cool stuff with mycelium. And of course, the sustainability division is all about the 3D printing and combining, mycelium with hemp. So I know they've got some really cool stuff. And in fact, I think, by the time this comes out, it doesn't really matter, but there will be a press release tomorrow on that. That's cool. And then we've got a couple doctors joining us here in the next week or two. And it's interesting who they are. They've always been behind the scenes anyway, but for all sorts of reasons, we couldn't officially bring them on board. And that has to do with obviously universities and us. But now that those particular contracts, those particular ones are now finished, they can now join in the capacity with our company. So whereas before they had to, represent the university or the institution, now they can actually represent us directly. But they've actually been working for us, since that time. So 4 years, 3 years, 4 years now. So super happy about bringing them aboard, and a bunch of other cool things happening. And bottom line, really, really happy. Like I said, we'll have more press releases coming out shortly that will bring all the shareholders up to speed.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that was a pretty crazy update. Hey,
Yeah,
the fact you only count a huge chain as one store, I think is what a lot of people are going to love. That's incredible. And
yeah,
looking forward to seeing some more updates there. But shall we do our usual dive into the markets? I mean, a lot to
you
talk about.
absolutely.
Where do you want to start? You want to start with Twitter and Elon? Why not?
Sure. Twitter Elon. I loved it when I saw that. It is a typical Elon move. Buying a stake like that is not a typical Elon move, but it is a typical thinking move of Elon. So most people are a little confused, in my opinion, as to why he did it. People think that he did it so that he could, take over the company or whatever. That ain't going to happen. You can throw that out the window. He joined the company just to rattle a few chains and to drive these guys nuts. If you think that Elon can get along with the management at Twitter, I can tell you there is no glue between them whatsoever. He did it to piss them off. He bought his stake. He got them. He persuaded them in such a way that they invited him onto the board. He then said, "Yeah, I'll come on the board." They get all excited, and then when it comes time to sign the papers, what does he do? Nah, I don't want to join your board. And then people say, "Oh, well, he doesn't want to join the board because he doesn't have to declare this." It's like, get a grip. He didn't join because he never wanted to join the board. He is, excuse my French here, but he's just fucking with Twitter. And likely, in the coming days, weeks, whatever, he will have sold all the stock, made a cool 1.5 billion or whatever, and off he goes, and does something else. It is typical, no different than what he did in the crypto space, which you know so well about. When he was telling people to buy Doge and whatever, he just loves playing with people. And he's got the capital to be able to think these things through. And not only that, he's got a guy like him who's got a tremendous legal staff with him. He passes his stuff by them first, says, "Look, I want to fuck around with Twitter. I want to buy a bunch of stock and see what happens." And they think about it and say, "Okay, Elon, go ahead, do what you want." So he does. But people think that he actually bought it as an investment for the long term. You don't think he has better things to do than buy Twitter shares? Crazy.
A lot of people saying, "Oh, he's going to bring on a bunch of the Republicans back onto Twitter." Trump being the crown jewel and others. You don't think so?
No, not at all. I hate to say it, but Twitter, like so many of these platforms, after a while, they start losing their luster, and they start, Twitter, Facebook, people are, again, the biggest part of any of these platforms is continuously getting new users. And you look at Facebook now, they're not getting that. I think we talked about it before, the next generation, they're not joining Facebook at all. They don't even know what Facebook is, basically. And they're hanging out on Instagram, they're hanging out on TikTok. That's what they love for the moment. And Facebook is a dying breed. And that's why I said, you asked me last time, would you buy it? I'd say, at this point, I'd sit back and really give it a good think as to, what is it that they're going to be doing with Meta? I don't think they really understand, so we certainly can't understand. And the same thing applies for Twitter. At least Elon had a couple good points. They're not new points, but he said, why don't you charge people for the blue check mark, charge them $3 a month or whatever, and verify people so you can get rid of 80% of the fake content on there with people that are there just to badmouth people. And if you got rid of that, then the platform would have some credibility. But it's a cesspool of people that just badmouth everybody with bullshit. And I've always used Twitter as not my personal tool to speak my voice. I use it as a tool to broadcast others' voices, throughout the media. And I try to broadcast from different news agencies, whatever it may be. Either you like the story or you don't. I'm not forcing you to like anything. I never make a comment. I never say, "Hey, you should really like this. Please retweet." Never. And that's how I use it as a tool to maybe inform people. I'm not saying the news is correct. I'm not saying you should, believe it or what. I just put it out there. So when I read, and I do read a ton, if I read something from the New York Times, it's a good article, I'll share it. Why not? If other people get value because they thought it was interesting, then I feel I'm doing something good. But I certainly don't go on there and write paragraphs of, here's what I think, blah, 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 because I know what the repercussions of that are. They're just not good. It's, Twitter is not in a good headspace, if you can say, if you can, kind of put that in there. So I don't really see, I don't see much of a future for Twitter. I really don't. And Meta, again, I'm really confused. LinkedIn is becoming more of a Facebook, with people sharing a lot more personal items and stuff. And I'm actually okay with that. Maybe LinkedIn becomes the next Facebook. And like I said, the rest of the people are on TikTok or other things like TikTok, but I don't participate in TikTok. I do enjoy Instagram because I like sharing my pictures of food and stuff because I love food. And I like people that actually comment with, smart comments like, oh, wow, that smoked salmon is so cool. I didn't know, whatever. So I actually like that. And I like the fact that there's no political commentary or very, very little across Instagram. And it's just, it is what it is. And so that's a little bit of my 2 cents. But you got the picture with where I see Elon with Twitter. He's not going to be sticking around for this one at all. He's made his money. He's had his fun. He's on to the next one.
Well, there you go. Love it. Oh, it definitely shook up people, which was great. But
Totally.
clearly we have to talk inflation.
Ooh,
I think a lot of people taking this as a massive surprise for some reason, which
yeah.
makes me a little bit, curious. But yeah, give it to me. I mean, they haven't came out with numbers just yet, but you saw they came out like enormous increase in inflation. So obviously expecting a fairly high number. I'm curious what you think that number is, and then also, what's the market take on it?
So well, they did come up with the numbers, 8.5, no? Yeah. So listen, I've spoken about this when inflation was down at next to zero, a year ago. And I told everybody in Internet Bull Report, I wrote about it all the time. I said, look, it is what it is. And under the new, policies of the new government, it's totally inflationary. It is what it is. You can't change that. And you're going to have runaway inflation, a dollar that's going to crap out. And you're going to have, I hate to say it again, but you're going to have friggin' chaos with the US economy going forward. Well, here we are. And I caught a lot of heat on that. People are telling me, obviously, I don't know. People don't want to hear, that type of stuff. And I get it. I'm empathetic that people don't want to hear me maybe spreading potential negative, well, not potential negative news. It was negative news, but here we are a year later, it's factual. Much like, I think you asked me, or we spoke about 6 months ago, back in October-ish, what's the future of psychedelics? I mean, here I am doing a video telling you, if I could, I would short the psychedelics ETF. It was at what, $9 at the time or somewhere? And you're kind of laughing at me going, but you're in the business. I said, yeah, but the destruction of the whole psychedelic space is about to happen. It's no different than cannabis, where you had all these people involved in the space that weren't doing anything in the space except for promoting their stocks and buying media all day long to promote their stocks. And, so many of these guys don't have any scientific background, nor were they capable of putting together any scientific teams. And most of all, I said it all the time, none of these people are actually touching psilocybin. Whereas us, almost going on 4 years now, we're touching the drug up at the University of Pretoria and doing the science and the research and publishing peer-reviewed papers in the best scientific journals. Everyone else, is like, they're not doing any of that, very few. So I said to you that the whole industry needed a good washout. And you asked me, well, what will that do for your company? I said, unfortunately, it's going to drag us down as well. And it did. It's taken us down considerably, as it has with others. I mean, you look at Atai and all these other stocks, they're down at $4 or $5. They were at $25. So we've all been hammered because of the majority of the companies that don't belong in the sector. It's typical of any sector, like in the cannabis industry, it happened. You get a bunch of bad apples that spoil it for the guys that really are trying to do real work. And that also goes, Jason, to, many people, including you, ask me, oh, are you going to have any upcoming conferences? I said, I would never join any of these conferences with a 10-foot pole. I said, it's filled with a bunch of, waiters and stoners that, last week were working at a restaurant and this week they're the CEO of a psychedelic company. So no, that's not what we do. I would much prefer keep our head down, conduct the research, do what we do, and plan for when the chaos happens and then it kind of, finds a bottom. And fortunately for the industry, I see that we're there, and I can tell you that there are many of the smaller companies looking to merge with other companies. No different than what happened in the cannabis game, where there are some debt on the books of these guys that they can't pay. And I've always said to you, which is fantastic, we have zero debt, never took on debt, never will take on debt, don't need it. Well, never say never, but it's not how we operate. It wasn't the right time for any of that. And that's why we always had like the retail division developing out the CBD product lines so that we'll have revenue and research. So a totally different business model than everybody else. But I hope that maybe cleared up a little bit. So, I mean, as to the psychedelic space where we're at, we're happy. I'm not happy that the stocks all got, tanked like ours, but I'm happy that a lot of the companies are much more in a space now where they know the difference between, reality and, people talking about, oh, we're going to have products on the shelves. We're going to have, psilocybin capsules on the shelves in May. I'm like, dude, you should go to jail for saying what you're saying. Like, no, you're not going to have psychedelic capsules. We're years away from that stuff. And the people that say these things to promote their companies and their stocks, like I said, they should be in jail for saying that crap because they've taken the investors for a hell of a ride. And again, what's the ETF at now, Jason? We always talk about that thing. I remember saying to you, like, going back to where I started this little diatribe, I said if I could, I would have shorted it, and I always said too, it's not
$3.30.
330. And when we spoke about it, it was almost at par. It was around 950. And there you go, a great example. I'm not going to name which ETF I spoke with management of, but I can tell you that way back then, well, not way back, but about 8-9 months ago, or a little bit more, maybe a year ago, I remember saying, like, dude, like, you can't just have an ETF going out and investing blindly, willy-nilly in the names that get the most publicity. Like, if you want to do this properly, buy the names, put them into a pot where you've actually had a couple scientists do the research on who these companies are. We have an incredible, Dr. Domingo has put together an incredible, database of all the companies that are out there, what they truly do versus what they say they do, and what are the potential of success of all these companies. And if you were to see that, it would shock you. And the reason we do that, just like any good business, you should know what your competitors are doing, but that data has to be compiled, like looked at from people that are in the industry that know what it is that they're supposedly doing. So, again, it's not shocking. People piled into the hype, and all you had to do was look at the people hyping, all these psychedelic stocks. It's all the same people over and over and over who have no business hyping biotechnology stocks, especially. Go hype, go hype one of your whatever casino plays or lithium plays or whatever. But if you want to talk about mental health issues where you're looking at drug discovery to really help humans, this isn't for you. You should go find something else to hype. Go hype whatever you want, but stay out of this sector where this is real science, real real doctors involved, where the outcomes for patients are crucial. And there is such an epidemic now with mental health that's what we need, are smart people. And I'm certainly not I'm not one of the smart scientists figuring this stuff out. My job, as you know, as CEO, is to connect all the dots, find the right people, find the right team that can make all this stuff happen. And I'm proud of that. And it's something that we've always stuck to. And I always say, keep my head down, just keep on working, and we'll get there. So, and we've got a bunch of, like I said, a bunch of cool stuff coming out shortly on the company related to all that.
Yeah. Well, it's the space is definitely settled down. You're seeing, like you said, you're starting to just see some M&A stuff popping up now. But
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of companies obviously kind of getting pushed out, and I think it's good for the sector long term. So we're talking general markets now. Give me, what's your take on the markets? Where are we today? What do you expect for the next couple months? Obviously, inflation numbers I checked yet. They released 8.5 earlier. What does that mean for the economy? Would you be an investor in the general, let's say, would you buy an S&P right now? Would you not?
So generally, how obviously things are always priced in. And it was about a week or two ago that I said, you know what, the markets are, in my opinion, finding a really good base. And you've always need, you always need a good base in order to move northbound again. And it's not that the economy is doing well. Meanwhile, people will tell you that it's doing great. And it's like, hello, it's not doing well at all. But if you want to buy these things that, ahead of the curve, and you have the patience and the fortitude to sit there and wait on these things, which is the way you should be doing your investing, definitely now is the time to start buying select equities. So, some of these stocks have been beaten up dramatically, right? And especially in the biotechnology sector, where stocks are down. I'm not talking psychedelics. I'm talking the big, biotech names. Um, look at Portage, which I'm very familiar with, of course. Portage is down at $6. A buy recommendation came out about a week ago from I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was one of the bigger names. $38 target. The stock's at $6. And the stock, when they announced the buy rec, it actually went down 25 cents. So, but that's the type of stupidity. That's when you want to be investing, because the market itself is being stupid. In any good market, had that come out, that stock would have doubled. It would have gone from 6 to 12. And especially in a company like Portage, where it's so thinly traded, you will look back at this opportunity and say to yourself, why didn't I buy it? What was I thinking? And that's what's going to happen. And so there are many situations like that. These are the kind of select ones that I like a lot, where the upside hugely outweighs the potential downside risk. The stock's at $6. What's it going to go down further? I mean, they just did a raise. I'm guessing 4 or 5 months ago, they raised, I guess, 40 million or whatever it was. And that was done at $23 a share, as I recall. And now it's at $6. So they have a tremendous pipeline of cancer drugs on the go, and that's a particular stock I love. And these are the types of situations that I would look to buy. Just because a stock is down, however, remember, doesn't mean it's a good buy, right? So if what, I'm just going to pick a name. If Shopify has come down a lot, which it maybe has, doesn't necessarily mean it's a good buy at this price. But there are some great companies that have been beaten up a lot, and they do represent tremendous opportunities for investors. So long term, as I like to be, I'm a definite buyer of the market in select areas, select quality stocks or ideas that do have that massive upside. And again, what I mean by that, just to clarify, Portage, the stock I can see, it's at $6 now. I can see that baby at, $35 by the end of the year. That's a 600% gain. Hello? You don't want to take that to the bank?
Interesting.
Go find me another one of those. You're not going to find it. So that's the type of stuff that I like at the moment. I do like the markets, even though the markets look like absolute shit. But that's when you want to be a buyer of all of these things. And listen, you know me, I never tout our stock. I don't. I never say, get out there, buy the stock, whatever. But similarly, I mean, our stock got beaten up all the way down to, I think, 15 or something. And listen, what's the downside? 15 cents. What's the upside? A lot higher than 15. So you have to look at these things and say to yourself, is Jeff executing from the M2 Bio side? Is he still executing on all the ideas and sales and everything that they said they're doing? And if so, why would I not want to buy the stock? Stock is down. It's obviously cheaper. But if there was a problem where, there was a press release where 50 stores, sent back our product because 50 people got gravely ill or something, well, then, yeah, there's a problem and you want to sell the stock. But that is not what's happening to us. It's definitely not the direction that we're in. And the press releases say exactly what it is that we're doing. It's like, you know, it's like you just, same old story, like use some critical thinking and some common sense. And there are other, I mean, it's not just our company or Portage, but there are some other many great companies. Just got to use common sense. You know, if Shopify is an example, I'm just going to use an example, but if it's down 50%, you know, is Shopify going away tomorrow? No. You know, and the stock was way overvalued. You know, just, you got to look at it from that standpoint. Use critical thinking. And critical thinking tells me at this point, everyone panicked, everyone's afraid, the markets suck, everything. And it does, everything sucks because of current policy. Imagine when, get into the imagine when. So imagine when, and there's no doubt this is about to happen, that the midterm elections are going to change dramatically the politics of America. And imagine the you know, how that's going to change for the market. And it's going to be huge. So Dow's at 34. You know, you could easily see, you know, moving up in closer to the midterm elections, you'll see this Dow, you know, spiking up slowly but surely by 37, 38, whatever it may be. And then, you know, it's going to start having a really good run. And, you know, we don't, it's, you know, Internet Bull Report myself, whatever. I try to, the best I can, I try to stay away from the politics. I don't, you know, necessarily like the name, you know, mentioning names and stuff, but sometimes you have to. But as I had written about, that the current administration has been very difficult and challenging in so many different ways, especially as it relates to the economy. And it's not going to change. It's only going to get worse and worse and worse. But as we lead into, you know, May, June, summer months in your territory in the U.S. and stuff, you know, those midterm elections are going to become much more, you know, clear to people. And I mean, they're calling for now, you know, the biggest, you know, turn or change ever in that midterm election. And you can't deny the fact of inflation. I mean, you can blame it on Biden as much as you want. You can't deny gas is at ridiculous prices, right? For your car, you can't deny all these things. They are what they are. You want to blame it on Putin? Okay, whatever, blame it on Putin. You can't deny the fact that this year alone, close to almost 8 million illegal immigrants will enter into the US. 8 million. By the way, if you don't believe that number, that comes straight from MIT. So it's estimated by the end of this 4-year term, there'll be close to 30 million illegal immigrants that have entered into the US. You know, like you just, I mean, this is insanity. These people, their papers aren't being checked. You look at the opioid crisis going on, like, it's like, where's the common sense, right? Like, where's the critical thinking? Like, you should be able to go down your list of to-dos and say, wow, we've got a serious problem at the border, but they don't. You know, they don't care. And I hate to say that because they're looking to, you know, turn those people into voters. And that's a really sad way to destroy America. And I hate to say it, in my opinion, I know many are going to disagree with me and not like that I say this. I'm not even American, but, you know, I did live there for a number of years, almost 17 years in total. And I do love America and what it represents. But I see it now, and the change, the climate, that everything, not climate change, but how the climate of the country has changed from being a very proud country to one that is just so split in terms of thinking and you know, and it's crazy. It's sad to see what's going on. And people ask me, you know, well, where would you move to for safety? I said, I'm in South Africa. In my opinion, South Africa represents the safest place in the world to live right now. You don't see us, you know, as much as we have a lot of difficulties here, which we do, you know, obviously South Africa has always had issues, no doubt about it. But they're not issues that just, it's not issues that came up in the last week or two. They've been here for a long, long time. And yes, it's divisive here as well. A lot of that stuff is here, but it's dealt with in a much different way. And it's just the problem in the Ukraine and all this. People will argue, maybe that should have been dealt with in a much stronger way by the U.S. as well. I have no comment on that, but I've commented earlier in a previous recording that if anyone really thinks that the Ukraine can win over the U.S., over Russia, they're nuts, absolutely nuts. And you think Russia, I hate to say it this way, but do you think they're really putting and applying all their force? It's much like Elon Musk. Putin's no dummy. He's toying with the Ukraine at the moment, poking and prodding and unfortunately killing so many innocent people. And don't take this wrong from me and how I'm kind of saying this. It's disgusting what's going on there. But you've got to get into the mind of Putin and say, what is he really doing? What's he trying to accomplish? Well, I'll tell you one thing. With his ego, he is certainly not ever going to turn around and walk away and say, okay, guys, you can have your country back. He's never going to admit defeat. And you know what that means, sadly. The end of the day, if he's getting close to defeat for whatever reason, he's going to take some really drastic measures, really drastic. And that's why I say, like everyone, tell Ukraine they're going to win and they're fine. Are you kidding? I said it before. It's like telling those guys to come to this fight with a knife. They're going to a gun battle with a knife. It's just not going to work. So that's a big mess as well. And, sad, and, I guess you could argue, why is it happening now? Why is, Moscow and Ukraine now? And what's going to happen with China? What's next with them? What's next with North Korea? What's next with Iran? Like, to me, the world is not a safe place at the moment whatsoever. And there are lots of arguments. You could argue why that is. People have got their own opinion. I've got mine. And this one I'll definitely stay out of. It's definitely my opinion. And I won't really voice that. But it's certainly not a safe place. And the future at the moment doesn't look the greatest. And what it will take is some strong leadership from America, like they always used to have and portray. Someone's got to come in and start being really strong. And, I can mention a few names on this, like things like Kamala Harris. That is scary, that her performance when she goes overseas and bumbles a bunch of, word salad stuff that no one understands. And she does her laughing thing. And to think that she could actually become the president, should Biden become not capable of running out his whole term. That is scary as hell. And you don't think that Iran, China, Russia, and everyone else knows this? Of course they do. They've known this from day one. And another thing, just to finish on that rant, I mean, Biden said, well, we're going to crush them with the sanctions and the ruble and the stock market. Well, just so you know, the ruble is now up. It is up from where the day that the invasion started. It is up. Markets, like, it's like, who is advising these people in the current government to be able to make these really dumb mistakes? The ruble is up. How do you justify that? But what's he going to do? Like, blame that on, who's going to blame that one on? Putin? Well, Putin's causing the ruble to be up. It's like, no, dude. It's because no one's afraid of you. And you've got to rule by strength, right? And military. And that's the way the world's always been. And America at the moment is having a real challenging time doing that. And it's sad,
What it's a crazy take, and I think we've talked about that before. Of course, we hopped on very quickly when Russia initially kind of made that move, and I think we got a lot of good feedback. People saying Jeff makes a lot of sense. So
yeah.
it's sad where we're going, but I guess we'll see what happens. And generally speaking, share your take. But chat about a lot of stuff. I think that was quite the interview. Anything else you wanted to squeeze in here before we close things off?
No, I think that's good, Jason. We'll do another one in a couple of weeks because there's so much moving out there. And for me, I mean, obviously that went into kind of a little bit of a political rant by myself, I guess. Well, political, geopolitical, economic stuff. But I think it's so important that people need to understand what critical thinking is. And we're not seeing it. And I don't know why this is, but we've got to get back to what critical thinking is. And I encourage people to look it up. What is critical thinking? Because it's just non-existent out there.
There you go. Well, we'll leave it there and we'll hop back on in a couple weeks. We'll see what all the questions come back, and I'm sure we're overdue for doing a little Q&A video mixed with a bunch of other stuff. And Jeff, again, thanks so much for joining. Look forward to chatting again soon.
Thanks, buddy. It was great speaking with you, Jason, as always.